among college coaches is that we've gotten a little bit too liberal as umpires on the outside part of the plate. By the same token, the general consensus seems to be that we're a little bit too tight on the knee pitch and we're a little bit too tight on the inside pitch. So these are three of the areas I want to talk about a bit. Let's start with the knee pitch. Anybody who's played the game any length of time knows that a pitcher, particularly at the college level, wants to keep the ball down. And he's going to be there in the first inning and he's going to be there in the ninth inning. If you want to be a successful college baseball umpire, I can guarantee you the best way to do that is to establish a good, consistent, low strike zone, stay with it for 9 innings, day after day, week after week. In my opinion, this is the bread and butter as far as umpires are concerned. When we're talking about a low strike zone, let's talk about what we mean here. We're talking about a pitch that comes in at the bottom part of the knees. Now, on the one hand, we sometimes see umpires call strikes down here, and that's too low. That pitch isn't hittable. In contrast, we see umpires at the college level, sometimes they won't call a strike unless it's here at the top of the knees or maybe at the knees. And we're just talking about a matter of a couple of 2 inches here maybe, but really this is where it needs to be because this is where the pitchers are going to be, and we need to be here from the first inning through the ninth inning. We need to be a little bit more liberal with the knee pitch than I think we are, generally speaking, across the country as I watch umpires work in different regions. And we say Yates is going to talk a little bit in a few minutes about catchers and catching the low pitch and some of the things umpires can look at. But for right now, let's just say that this is where we need to be concentrating on. Now, let's talk for a second about the high pitch. The major leagues now have gotten to the point where nothing above the waist is going to be a strike. And I think the same thing, I think almost all of us would agree, has happened in the college game. You go watch college baseball now, particularly Division I, particularly the top Division I programs, and what you're going to see is nothing above the waist is called a strike. And I think the general consensus on the part of the coaches and the games committee is we can get that strike zone up here as far as fastballs are concerned. Now, nobody's talking about calling high pitches on breaking pitches. That thing that comes in here and comes in as high as the elbows or the shoulders and then drops down in this part of the, we're not talking about calling those things strikes. What we're talking about is a fastball that comes through about the navel. And so again, this is just a matter of really raising the zone a couple of inches on the high side, but it makes a difference. And it's going to make a difference in terms of the ball game, and it'll make a difference in terms of getting people to swing the bat and be more aggressive at the plate, and that's what we want. As far as the outside part of the plate is concerned, and this is what I am repeatedly hearing from coaches that they think is a real big problem area. You know from umpiring that when you're on the outside part of the plate, that's an easy way to steal a strike because the dugouts can't tell whether the pitch is inside or out. And you can get out here sometimes, and I've done it, and we all do it. You can get out here this far outside of the plate, and you can call that a strike, and they're not going to know about it, so they're not going to scream about it. Problem is, coaches feel, and I think I've got to agree, that all of us have gotten a little bit too liberal out here. We're now calling pitches outside of the zone that just aren't hittable. Doesn't matter whether it's a curveball that's breaking this far outside or a fastball that comes out here. That's not a hittable pitch. And when Dave talks in here in a minute, he's going to talk about catchers that set up outside. But sometimes we'll call a strike 3 or 4 inches off the plate because the catcher sits up out there and it looks good. But we got to be more conscious of that. So we need to get that outside pitch right back in here where it's a legitimate corner pitch. We're always saying that we need to call borderline pitches strikes. We're not saying anything different from that today. We're always saying that you ought to think strike. We're not saying anything different from that today. We've consistently said in the past that a ball ought to be assumed to be a strike unless it convinces you a ball. We're still saying the same thing there, but we're just saying let's be legitimate and let's be fair to the hitter equally as we're trying to be fair to the pitcher. Inside part of the plate, I think the consensus here is we're probably too tight. Now, most pitchers don't throw inside. They don't throw inside as much as they used to, and there's a lot of different reasons for that which we don't need to go into. But the point is, when they do throw inside, we need to give them what's legitimately coming to them. Sometimes that pitch will come in here, nick the corner, and maybe the catcher ends up catching it a good 6 or 8 inches inside, but it's a legitimate pitch. When the hitter crowds the plate, sometimes we don't want to call that a strike for some reason just because he's crowding the plate. But I guess basically what we're saying in substance in sum is bottom of the knees, fastball at the navel, not a breaking pitch, be a little bit more liberal on the inside corner and be sure you're giving them a legitimate strike, and let's try to rein it in on the outside corner and not be calling pitches 3 and 4 inches off the plate strikes. Now what